When thinking about affordable and exciting digital nomad destinations, we often think of the typical ones: Thailand, Indonesia, namely Bali, generally Southeast Asia, maybe Central America or South America. However, there are a couple of very inexpensive and super exciting digital nomad destinations in Europe. No, I'm not talking about Portugal. I'm talking about the Balkans. The Balkans have fantastic digital nomad infrastructure, at least when it comes to internet speed. They are steeped in history and they have a fantastic cost of living. So at the moment, I am doing a Balkan series to introduce these fantastic countries to you. Today's digital nomad destination is Serbia. Serbia is a landlocked country in southeastern Europe, bordering Croatia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Kosovo, which Serbia itself, as well as several other countries such as Russia, China, and 5 EU member countries do not recognize as a sovereign country. We will get back to this in a designated history bit, because it is important not only for your understanding of the people and culture, but also has a travel implication for you. For some reason, Serbia has, up until now, not really made it onto the radar of many tourists or digital nomads, which is why the cost of living here is super affordable. But, as with so many hidden gems, that is probably about to change, and there are a couple of initiatives that are working hard on putting Serbia on the map for digital nomads and attracting them to the metropolis of Belgrade, which is known for having one of Europe's hottest nightlifes, or by building interesting digital nomad infrastructure and meeting places, such as the co-living space Mokrin House, which we will take a closer look at. And then of course there's Serbia's beautiful, untouched nature and its central location and proximity to so many other European countries. Serbia is outside the Schengen zone and is an EU candidate, meaning it has not joined yet, although that can change in the coming years. So this makes it a perfect spot for digital nomads to wait out and reset their Schengen clock. Although, honestly, Serbia has so much culture, history and beautiful nature on offer, it is worth a visit on its own, not just to wait for your next entry into the Schengen zone. Its capital, Belgrade, for example, is one of Europe's oldest cities, and people have settled here since 5000 BC. Aside from bustling cities like Belgrade or Niš, Serbia also offers beautiful small towns, steeped in millennia of history, enchanting mountain villages, and breathtaking, untouched nature where you can hike for days without meeting more than a handful of people. Depending on where in Serbia you are, the weather varies between continental and subtropical. From late May until the end of September, the days will be mostly warm and sunny. The winter, however, can be cold and wet. Serbia's currency is the Serbian dinar. $1 is approximately worth 111 Serbian dinar. Serbia is a cash society, so make sure you always have sufficient amount of cash on you, because you will have a hard time paying, for example, cabs, entrance fees, or even small meals in restaurants with your credit card. Let's talk a little bit about language. Serbia's language is Serbian, and technically Serbian uses the Cyrillic alphabet. That's the alphabet that also is used in Russian. Many places will at least offer menus in English and with the English alphabet, but if you choose to stay in Serbia for a little longer time, it is probably a good strategy to familiarize yourself with at least a few words in the Cyrillic alphabet, so you can find the things that you need on a regular basis. However, when it comes to the spoken language, most younger people do speak English, so you shouldn't have much problems communicating, at least in the bigger cities. It is a little different on the countryside and off the beaten track, where you might, at least in the older generations, meet a lot of people that would rather be able to speak Russian than English. But in those cases, nothing binds people more together than communicating with hands and feet and having the success of understanding each other. Personally, I always think that travel has a lot to do with understanding each other's culture, each other's history, and realizing that beneath it all, we actually are quite the same. Serbia and the entire regions of the Balkans have an incredibly complex and quite sad or violent history. And if you want to travel to Serbia, I really urge you to dig into that a little bit, to seek and understand what this country has gone to and how it relates to its neighboring countries. Serbia, together with 5 other independent states, mainly Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, Macedonia, Montenegro, and Slovenia, formed the state of Yugoslavia in 1918 after World War I. Serbia at that time consisted of 2 autonomous regions, Vojvodina and Kosovo. After World War II, or rather from 1953 until his death in 1980, Yugoslavia was run by Josip Broz Tito, mostly referred to only as Tito. When Tito began to run Yugoslavia, he did so under a communist ideology, or rather market socialism. Though clearly distinguished from Russia and China, Yugoslavia was doing very well under his rule. However, when Tito died, nobody could really fill his shoes, and a lot of nationalist tensions broke out, with each ethnic and religious group starting to fight for their own interests and an independent state. It was truly horrible, and people that had been friends or neighbors for years, decades, began to fight each other for reasons of ethnicity or nationality or religion. The Yugoslavian War was one of the bloodiest in Europe, and a lot of war crimes were committed, including systematic rape and genocide. In the end, Yugoslavia ceased to exist, and the new Balkan states as we know them today were born. The Yugoslavia War was in essence a collection of wars. One of them was the Kosovo War, in which Kosovo, which as you might remember from before, was part of Serbia, strived for independence. The Kosovo War too was a very, very bloody and gruesome chapter in the history of the Balkans and in the history of the Yugoslavian War. And while Kosovo today is recognized by 119 countries as an independent state, Serbia does not. Tensions here are still running high. This is also important for you if you want to visit Kosovo. If you do so from Serbia, you will not have a problem, since to the Serbian authorities, you are still in Serbia. If you enter Kosovo from the other side though, meaning from any of its other land borders and then travel further to Serbia via Kosovo, you will have issues because, according to Serbian interpretation, you will then have entered Serbia illegally because you do not have an entry stamp into Serbia, since the Kosovo entry stamp is not accepted because Kosovo as a country does not exist to the Serbian Republic. I know that logically this seems to not make sense, but unfortunately sometimes nation state and border politics don't. So after this quite long introduction to this politically, historically and naturally very interesting country, let's see what it has to offer specifically for digital nomads. I'm talking infrastructure, internet, cost of living, and of course, visa situation. If you want to jump right to the visa section, you will find the timestamps down below. Hi, my name is Sara, and on this channel I aim to provide you with everything you know to pick your next or first digital nomad destination in confidence. So without further ado, let's go see if Serbia is the right pick for you. First of all, let's talk about digital nomad infrastructure. This means the things you need as a digital nomad to make your lifestyle work in a country. And here, number 1 is always internet. The internet speeds in Serbia are actually excellent. The plans are inexpensive and almost all establishments offer an internet connection. Many internet providers offer, for example, also prepaid internet packages that include compact modems. But not only that, you will be able to find plenty of cafes and restaurants with internet access. Serbia has a strong coffee culture, so sitting in a cafe for hours with your laptop to work is really easy. Belgrade, for example, also offers co-working spaces where you can connect not only to the internet, but also to many other digital nomads. Next, let's look at Serbia's infrastructure. How can you get to the country, but also travel around in the country? Because I assume you don't only want to work, you also want to get to see something of this beautiful country. The biggest airport, Belgrade Nikola Tesla Airport, lies about 20 kilometers from Belgrade. The country has another airport in Nice called the Nice Constantine the Great Airport, and that lies 4 kilometers from Nice in the south of Serbia. If you want to travel overland there are plenty of long-distance buses and trains connecting Belgrade to mainland Europe and its capitals. To get around in Serbia itself, your best bet would be to probably rent a car or use public transport. There are also various local bus companies you can use to travel through the country. The train lines in Serbia are limited, but you can get, for example, from Belgrade to Novi Sad, Subotica or Niš, the bigger cities. And Belgrade itself has wonderfully working public transport with buses, trams and trolleybuses. Uber does not operate in Belgrade, but there is an alternative called Car2Go. Also, if you decide to use a cab, make sure that the meter is running. It's a relatively common scam in the Balkans to not have the meter running and then overcharge you. When it comes to accommodation, you will find plenty of options. For longer stays, you might want to check expat communities, for example on Facebook, for an option to rent. This will save you a lot of money. Otherwise, try Airbnb, hostels, hotels, guest houses or co-living spaces like the Mokrin House, which is especially designed to meet digital nomad needs. Now, let's have a little look into cost of living. This segment is always the same in all of my videos, meaning my numbers come from Numbeo because Numbeo is a crowdsourced platform that therefore is also quite up to date. And secondly, I always translate the local currency into US dollars because I feel that the US dollar is a very comparable or relatable currency to most people watching. An inexpensive meal in Serbia will cost you on average $6.35. A cappuccino will cost you $1.55. A monthly transport pass will cost you $28.75. Taxi starting tariff is $1.53 and you will pay 63 cents per kilometer. Waiting in a cab in traffic for 1 hour will cost you $5.39. Utilities for an 85 square meter apartment will cost you approximately $137. Internet will cost you $21 and a one-room apartment inside the city center, so very central, will cost you $365. If you will rent an apartment outside of the city center and less central, this will cost you approximately $247. Now that we've gotten the basics out of the way, let's talk a little about where to actually stay, where to meet other digital nomads. First of all, Belgrade, the capital of the country and the queen of nightlife. Belgrade has, partly thanks to different initiatives trying to attract digital nomads, become more and more interesting to digital nomads and expats. You will be able to make a lot of connections here during meetups and in the many co-working spaces around town. Belgrade is a metropole with a population of 1.7 million people and is actually one of the oldest European capitals. It is split in two by the two rivers that meet here, the Danube and the Sava. The old town lies on one side of the now combined rivers and the newer, more modern part of the town on the other. All over the city you will find remnants of Belgrade's millennia-old history, making it a great place to just walk around and discover all its nooks and crannies. Particularly the city center is quite walkable, and if you live and stay there, you might not even need to rely on public transport. One of the most popular neighborhoods amongst digital nomads is Dorkul. It's central and full of cafes, restaurants and bars as well. Yet it is not as touristy as Stari Grad. If you prefer the local hipster vibe, Skardalia was once home to Belgrade's boheme. It is now Belgrade's hipster street, with bars, cafes and old taverns lining the beautiful cobblestone streets and filled with the local young crowd. It's a great place to live if you want to make connections with like-minded people and creatives. It is also a great place to enjoy some live music in the evenings. If you're looking for a quieter neighborhood with more outdoor activities, try New Belgrade. This is a great place for families, because you will have plenty of green space here, and you can still easily make it to the city center by bus or tram. Things to do in Belgrade. One place you should definitely visit is the Museum of Yugoslavia. Belgrade was the capital of the state of Yugoslavia, and this museum can help you familiarize yourself with parts of its history and with Tito. for some time outdoors, particularly during the summer, visit Arasigandlia. This is a beautiful river island you can visit in the summer for the perfect beach day. Just prepare for the crowds. Now, to see a little bit about the history or culture of the area, you should absolutely visit the Saint Sava temple. This impressive place of worship is one of the largest Eastern Orthodox churches in the world. Step inside and admire the gold iconography from the thousands of gold mosaic stones, ever changing in the flickering lights of hundreds of candles in the absolutely jaw-dropping golden chandelier. And if that wasn't enough, it also features beautiful, intricate carvings in the white marble walls. A not insignificant part of that temple has actually been financed by the Russian government. Putin himself even was there to put symbolically one of these golden little mosaics into place. For some green space in the city, go to Kalemegdan Park. This is a big green space right in front of the fortress of Belgrade. It is the perfect spot to spend some time sitting or walking and enjoying nature in the middle of the busy city, while enjoying absolutely stunning views over the waterfront and the city. The park also features some underground tunnels that date back to Roman times. There are even tours offered to visit them and learn more about Belgrade's rich and eventful history. Inside Kalemegdan Park, you will find Belgrade Fortress. Once upon a time, the entire city of Belgrade was situated inside the fortress. It is where Belgrade originated. The fortress was built by the Ottomans. However, it was built on top of pre-existing ruins and structures that date back all the way to the Romans. Within the fortress, there are 2 museums, a defensive bunker, and the picturesque Russia church. If you would like to do some shopping, Knez Mihailova is the place to be. This is Belgrade's main shopping and pedestrian zone. It is lined with beautiful buildings dating back to the 19th century. This is also where you can find all sorts of brand stores, shopping malls, and so on. Aside from Belgrade, there are a couple of other bigger cities in Serbia that are attractive to digital nomads. One of them is Novi Sad. Novi Sad is another great city for digital nomads that keeps growing in popularity. It is Serbia's second biggest city and lies on the Danube River's bank. It is also called the capital of culture and hosts a well-known and popular music festival, the Exit Festival, in summer. The city center unfolds around the Square of Freedom. From here you can wander and explore the colorful houses, museums and art galleries. You will also find plenty of cafes and bars to rest your tired feet. For the perfect view over the city, climb the clock tower of Petrovaradin's fortress. Serbia's third biggest city is Niš. Niš dates back to 279 BC and was birthplace and home to Constantine the great Roman emperor who built Constantinople. One of Niš's very special sites is the Skull Tower. The Skull Tower was built by the Ottomans from the skull of rebels in the 1809 uprising. Serbian rebels fighting the Ottoman occupation saw no means of escape and blew themselves up to avoid capture. For more super important world history in Niš, visit the Niš Red Cross concentration camp. It was built by Nazis during World War II. As a German national, with at least parts of my family being German, I feel that almost everybody should visit these reminders of the atrocities that happened back then, to make sure that we don't forget and to hopefully avoid them from happening again. So while this is obviously a very disturbing and distressing place to visit, I still think it is well worth a visit to understand what people are capable of doing in the name of history, of religion, of ethnicity, if we don't find a way to communicate and understand each other better, which in my mind technically is the essence of travel and why I think travel is such a fantastic opportunity to get closer to each other. Usually, whenever possible, the Nazis actually used to destroy concentration camps when they left. However, not so with the one in Niš. It is the best preserved concentration camp in Europe. It held around 30,000 Jews and Romani at the time. As the last place for digital nomads to set up, temporary living, I would not like to recommend a city, but a place, the co-working and co-living space of Mokrin House. Mokrin House is a co-living space specifically dedicated to digital nomads. It is located in Kikinda, about 2.5 hours drive from Belgrade, and offers everything that you could need as a digital nomad. Different forms of accommodation, shared or single, 3 meals a day that are eaten together with all the other digital nomads in order to secure and ensure some form of community, a swimming pool, a gym, internet with a backup generator, so you even have electricity and internet when the electricity actually goes, and plenty of fantastic co-working spaces. Many people come here for a chance to focus and really deep dive into their work for a couple of weeks or days. The founder herself has been a digital nomad, so she really understands the pain points and needs this lifestyle brings. So let's talk about some other places you can visit in Serbia, tourist attractions and such that you shouldn't miss while you're in the country. First up, the nature preserve in Valjevo. Serbia has some stunning nature on offer, so if you are into outdoor activities like hiking, there is plenty to do for you. About 90 minutes from Belgrade, next to the little town of Valjevo, you will find a beautiful nature reserve, perfect for a nature trip from the big city. Here you can trek through the impressive Gradac River Gorge, Bajina Bašta and Tara National Park. Bajina Bašta is a village in southwestern Serbia, close to the border with Bosnia and Herzegovina. From here you can visit Tara National Park, which features one of Serbia's most famous and most photographed landmarks, the house on the river Drina. This used to be a refuge for swimmers and sailors who lost their ship, but now it's a super popular photo opportunity. Now that I've hopefully woken your interest in Serbia as a digital nomad destination, let's talk about visa opportunities. What are your options of staying here? Serbia is still discussing the options of a digital nomad visa. However, already now, anybody who earns at least $3,500 per month can apply for temporary residence and live here for a year. It can also be extended annually. Now, if you want to visit Serbia for 90 days or less, there's always the option of entering on a tourist visa. Benefits here are, of course, that you don't have to meet any income requirements and that the process is a lot smoother and easier. You would have to research for your own nationality if you can just get a visa upon arrival, or if you would have to go and apply at an embassy for a visa beforehand. And should you want to stay in Serbia longer, but you don't qualify for the temporary resident, you can, of course, as many digital nomads do in plenty of countries, chance and take a visa run, meaning you enter on a tourist visa for 90 days, then exit the country and re-enter it. Of course, here you are running the risk that they won't let you in again, but this is quite uncommon. Regardless of the visa regime, however, any foreigner is obliged to register at the police station 24 hours after entering the country. Okay, back to the temporary residence visa. Aside from the income requirements, there are actually a couple of more requirements that kind of make it very similar to a digital nomad visa. You must prove your income with bank statements. You must also open a Serbian bank account and deposit money in it to activate it. And the sum you have to deposit is 3 months worth of salary. However, according to the internet, many people get away with depositing between 50,000 and 60,000 dinar in it. That's between 430 to 500 euros. Or 450 to 500 US dollars. Next, you must have an official letter from the Serbian bank that you have actually done so. You must show proof of accommodation and provide the landlord's details, meaning a photocopy of their ID or a photo of their ID and a photocopy of a contract signed between the two of you that will attest that you are renting from him or them, and to prove that the property is theirs to rent out. You must have a valid passport, valid health insurance, and 2 passport-sized pictures. The price will be approximately 640 US dollars. This includes the visa fee of approximately 110 US dollars and the deposit to the Serbian bank account of approximately 521 US dollars. Benefits are that no matter where you come from, no matter the weakness or strength of your passport, anyone that has the income can apply to it. It allows you to settle down, at least temporarily, slow down in your travels, get to know a country thoroughly, and maybe avoid burning out from fast travel. Also, it is extendable, like I said, and keep in mind that Serbia is a candidate to join the EU in a couple of years. And if I was now able to raise some interest for the region, but you're not really sure if Serbia is the thing, check out my latest video on Albania and its visa policies, which allows Americans to stay for an entire year visa-free. And keep an eye out for more videos about the Balkan regions in the upcoming weeks. Thanks for today, thanks for your time, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.